Hey everyone, this is Jesse from the Movement Athlete. Today we'll be talking about the rings dip progressions. We've broken them down into 6 different pathways of varying loads and levels of difficulties, and we've highlighted the ones that will be efficient, right? We want to train smart and make it quite simple in how do you actually get these ring dips. We don't need to get too complicated and go through all the hundreds of variations of it, but what are the most efficient ones, and we're going to go through those today. So after having achieved the prerequisites, we can now get into the progressions for the dip. So the first one we'll be looking at is getting comfortable at the bottom of the dip. So Jeremy's going to show this in a few different ways. There are varying levels of difficulties that we can go with this, so let's take a look at a few of them. So we've got the rings low to the ground, and you can do a variation where the legs are behind you. And again, he's practicing the bottom of the dip. He's not having contact with the straps. The angle of his shoulder is correct. And again, the posture is good, neutral head, all of those things that we're abiding by. So another variation would be the legs are in front. This might feel better. And again, same idea. Bottom of the dip. And what he's doing is trying to take off some weight from the upper body, right? So he can use more legs if he has to, or maybe he can try to, almost as if he's going to push his legs off the ground and focus more on the upper body with this. But again, the varying levels of difficulty built in with this first one. And then, of course, once you get that, there's the unassisted bottom of the dip. So at this point, he's at the bottom and holding, right? His legs are off the ground, same exact thing, same position. He's at the bottom of the dip, showing strength and stability, comfortability. So again, this progression is to get comfortable at the bottom of the dip. It's got the varying levels of difficulty built in. And if you achieve this, holding it around for that 12 to 13 second range or more, then you'll be in a great position on your dip journey if you get comfortable at the bottom of your dip. So those are a few variations right there. So the next progression that we'll be looking at is the leg assisted dip, and this is called the chair dip, and you'll see why. So we've got the surface raised a little bit higher than we have in the previous ones. So Jeremy's going to walk out for his feet in front, and you can see the top position is him, with his feet supported already. So he's just going to go through what looks like a squat as if he's going to sit in the chair, and he's doing the leg assisted rings dip right here, following all the same rules as the initial demonstrations. This one's easier, of course, because the legs are bearing some of the weight. It's going to help with taking load off and making the rings more stable. So again, this is the rings dip. Great progression because you're going through the full range of motion as you will later on when you achieve the dip, and this is just taking some of the weight off. So for the leg assisted chair dips, the range that we're looking for is the 8 to 12 range. Once again, the overlap of strength hypertrophy. So shooting for 8 to 12. And this is the chair dip on the rings. The third progression that we'll be looking at for the rings dip is the eccentric rings dip, full body weight. So let's watch Jeremy hop up to the top of the rings. He's going to start in the position with a lockout and do a slow 6-second lower down, right? So he's going slowly with control, taking 6 seconds to reach the bottom. And once he does, he puts his feet down and simply jumps back to the top and repeats each rep, following all the same technical items. Head position, arms being locked to the top, elbows tracking backwards, trying to avoid the straps, keeping good posture with the hips. And this is the eccentric portion of the dip. Great progression because it's full body weight, right? It's half the exercise, it's just the lowering portion. Any eccentric training highly activates the nervous system. So again, just going from top to bottom, full body weight, and you're going through the exact range of motion that you will be when you do the full range, coming back to the top with the concentric portion later on. So the fourth progression for the rings dip is more like a little challenge that we have for you. So we'll be encompassing previous progressions basically into one sequence. So Jeremy's going to give us an example. We'll start off at the top. We're going to start off holding the support position for 10 seconds or so. And after 10 seconds, we're going to do the slow 6-second lower down, right? The eccentric portion of the dip. And he's going to hold the bottom for 6 seconds. After he holds for 6 seconds, he puts his feet back down and does the chair dip to return back to the top. Great. So we're encompassing the previous progressions all in one piece. We're hitting up a great top position that's stable. We're doing the eccentric portion of the dip. We're getting comfortable and strong at the bottom of the dip, and then we're doing the concentric phase to return back to the top. This is going to increase the time under tension, and it's going to help with the muscular endurance as well. So we're hitting up really the whole dip in a way that you'll be able to do by this point. The next progression that we have for your rings dip journey is going to be the assisted dip, and this is going to be a few different ways. The first one we have is going to be with a band, and we'll show you a couple other ones later on. So before you even get into this, it's important that you're familiar enough with bands, because if you use this incorrectly, it can really snap back up at you, and you don't want that. So you have to make sure that you place your hands firmly on the band, which are on top of the rings first. And Jeremy's got this little prop up behind him, so the transition into it is not jumping, right? He's going to carefully place one leg, then the other leg with resistance. Good. Okay, so now he's going to simply do the full dip, right? He's going to go low, down to the bottom, and then he's going to press back up to the top. And obviously the band is providing the assistance necessary in this one. Great. So this is the assisted dip with the band, and he just simply reverses back out the way he came in. It's important to also note that the height of the straps is really going to make a difference here. So if these rings were attached to the ceiling, all of these dips can change in difficulty right away from that. So I do want to also mention that. But again, this is with the band solely, and we'll get into a couple other items after this. Another version of the assisted dip will simply be with this loop that we've attached up here. And this doesn't have to be a loop. This is a thicker fabric loop, and really this is just reducing the height of the straps. This particular set of rings actually doesn't need this, because you could simply just, again, shorten the height of the rings. If this is attached to the ceiling and you can't do that, this is the other great option, to just shorten length of the strap. So the shorter it is, the more stable it is. So Jeremy's going to show us what this version of an assisted dip looks like. So it takes out a lot of the instability, and he's simply just going to do the full range dip, and it'll be a lot easier because you're going to be far less shaky. Easier to support and stabilize. So that's an example of how to do the assisted dip with the loop around. It could be a shirt, it could be really anything that you're putting on top of the straps, or like I said, this doesn't need it at all. We could just make the ring shorter, but this is a nice progression to help stabilize the rings before doing the whole ring dip. So the sixth progression is the actual skill, the full ring dip on the rings with complete body weight. So by this point you should have enough strength to hold the top, lower through the dip slowly, hold the bottom, and then come back, end up in the lock arm position. So let's take a look at the complete rings dip that you've been wanting to get. And again, Jeremy starts off at the top, lowers through to the bottom, and presses back up, rings out, arms locked, everything remains. Looks great. So this is the complete ring dip, and as I said, if you had gone through these other progressions before this, you should be at a point where you can do the complete ring dip. And if not, and you want to fix some of the technical items, you have those 5 previous items to work on and improve whatever is necessary from there. So that's it, team. Those are the 6 progressions on your way to the rings dip. And although that might seem like an ending point, that is in no way is that the case. That'll lead into further fun skills, which we'll get into later on. But again, with these 6 items that we've gone through with the progressions, you can start to change the tempos. You can go through them slower. You can do some holds. So start to look at these different progressions that we did and start to put some tempo work in there, or combining the sequences together. But these 5 items before the actual dip should do some great efficiency in your training towards getting that proper ring dip. So thanks for following along with us, and we've got more after the ring dip ahead. Real quick, if you guys liked what you saw here, please click the link in the description below. It'll take you to a free course that's got a lot of guides, challenges, and resources for how to learn more calisthenic and bodyweight training skills. It's going to help you get stronger, fitter, more mobile, happier, and it'll help you achieve your fitness goals. So see you inside.